Let's dive into one of the most haunting ghost ship stories you'll ever hear. Seriously, this one is just baffling. It's the tale of the SS Orang Medan, a ship that sent out a terrifying message and then vanished, leaving behind a mystery that still gives people chills today. Just imagine hearing that crackle over the radio. It's the final, frantic broadcast from the Orang Medan's radio operator, a desperate, fragmented message, and then just static. Absolute silence. This is where our story begins, and trust me, it only gets stranger. Okay, so picture this. It's February 1948. We're in the Strait of Malacca, this super busy shipping channel right between Malaysia and Indonesia. The weather's fine, the seas are calm, just another day for the ships sailing through. But for one of them, things were about to go horribly, horribly wrong. Now, that message came through in Morse code. And yeah, it might sound like old school tech, but here's the thing. Morse code is incredibly reliable. It can cut through all sorts of atmospheric noise over huge distances. So when you get an SOS in Morse code, you know it's the real deal. It's a life or death situation. The distress calls came in this really frantic, escalating sequence. First, it was a pretty standard SOS. We need a doctor. But then, almost right away, came a second, absolutely terrifying update. Officers and crew are dead. They didn't need a doctor anymore. They were asking for a warship. And then, just two final words, I die, followed by nothing. So the closest ship that picked up the call was an American merchant vessel, the Silver Star. Her captain, hearing this, immediately changed course. They started racing toward the last known coordinates of the Orang Medan, fully expecting to find some kind of major disaster in progress. But what they found was just weird. It was deeply unsettling. The crew of the Silver Star was bracing for a sinking ship, or maybe signs of a pirate attack, or a massive fire. Instead, they see the Orang Medan just floating there, totally intact, looking peaceful. No smoke, no damage, just this spooky, unnatural silence. The captain of the Silver Star tried everything. They're blasting their horn, they're shouting over loudspeakers, trying to get any kind of response, and they get nothing back. Not a single sign of life. For a big ship like that, complete silence is just wrong. So with no other options, he decides to send a boarding party over to see what's going on. The moment the American sailors set foot on the Orang Medan's deck, two things hit them right away. First, a strange chill in the air, which made no sense in the tropical heat. And second, a silence so deep and profound, it was almost deafening. And then they saw them. The scene on deck was straight out of a horror movie. Everywhere they looked, they found the bodies of the crew, frozen in their last terrifying moments. The whole scene was just bizarre. Every single person was dead, even the ship's dog. Their bodies were rigid, their eyes and mouths were wide open, and their faces were frozen in these masks of absolute terror. A lot of them had their arms stretched out like they were trying to fight off something nobody could see. But here's the strangest part. There were no injuries, no signs of a fight at all. And in the radio room, there he was, the operator, dead at his post with his fingers still on the Morse code. Okay, so the crew of the Silver Star is completely shaken by this horrifying scene. The captain makes what seems like the only logical call. They need to tow this ghost ship to the nearest port so investigators can figure out what on earth happened. But just as they start hooking up the tow lines, smoke starts pouring out of one of the lower cargo holds. And within moments, that smoke erupts into a massive fire. The boarding party has to cut the lines and scramble for their lives to get back to their ship. And just as they get clear, a huge explosion just rips the Orang Medan in half. And just like that, it was gone. In a few minutes, the ship, its dead crew, and any chance of finding out what really happened all sank to the bottom of the ocean. The only thing left was the unbelievable story told by the horrified crew of the Silver Star. So with no shipwreck to investigate, the story of the Orang Medan became the stuff of legend. And the mystery only got deeper when researchers later on couldn't even find an official registration for a ship with that name. It suggests it might have been operating illegally, a ghost ship in every sense of the word. Okay, so what could have happened? Well, the most logical theories all point to some kind of hazardous cargo. Maybe a leak of potassium cyanide mixed with seawater, creating a toxic gas that asphyxiated the crew. That would definitely explain the looks of terror and no injuries. Or maybe the ship was carrying nitroglycerin, which is super unstable. That would explain the fire and the massive explosion that sent it to the bottom. But then, there are other theories. Theories that point to something much, much darker. You have to remember, this happened right after World War II. The world was swimming in secrets, and it's possible the Orang Medan was carrying a particularly nasty one. And that brings us to something called Unit 731. Now, this was a real and truly notorious secret research unit of the Japanese army. They developed some of the most horrifying biological and chemical weapons you can imagine, often by experimenting on human beings. It was absolutely monstrous stuff. Now, you might think linking this ship to a top-secret weapons program is a stretch. But then, the CIA declassified a letter from 1958 that specifically mentions the Orang Medan incident. The fact that a major intelligence agency was still documenting this event a decade later, well, that got a lot of people thinking that the ship was part of some black ops mission, maybe smuggling nerve agents or biological weapons from Unit 731 that went horribly, horribly wrong. So, what do you think? What really happened on the SS Orang Medan? Was it a tragic freak accident with a dangerous cargo? Or was it something more sinister? A covert operation whose secrets were so dark they had to be sunk to the bottom of the sea. With no ship to examine, it's a chilling mystery that will probably never be solved.